everyone. My pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today, Zachary Bailey. He is a co-founder of CareWindow, which he's going to tell you all about, an accessible videophone and communications platform helping older people and people with disabilities stay connected with family, carers and their communities. He is also the Managing Director of James Anthony Consulting, an Adelaide-based technology and software firm established in 2014, employing more than 50 South Australians, and co-founder of the Innovation Factory, a co-working space located on Halifax Street, which supports forward-thinking businesses with a stable base of operations. He runs these businesses with a strong social ethic, including philanthropic work and dedicating his time to teaching and mentoring through TAFE SA and Flinders University. Zach's work brings together technology, education and social impact to create practical solutions that improve people's everyday lives. So I'd like to introduce Zac. His talk will be My Journey Developing Innovative Assistive Technology in Adelaide. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for the introduction, and it's nice to see you all this afternoon, and thanks for putting on the lunch too. It was lovely. So I'm here to tell you a little bit more about who I am, what I do, and what CareWindow is, and invited very kindly by Alfredo Cabada, who helped me start that business as well. And yeah, we can tell you a little about our mission and how it's going. So I'll just flick over to the slides. I do have a few slides, but don't worry, they're not too important if you can't see them. I'll just see if my clicker works. There we go. All right, so I'd love to tell you a little bit more about what my journey's been like in Adelaide, building the technology I've created. Something I found pretty interesting is a lot of people, when they see a product come out or see a business start, they assume it just happened in a year or two. A good idea led to some success. I wanted to talk about what actually went behind coming up with the idea, what the idea actually was, and how Adelaide was able to support me and my team to bring it to life. So I'll tell you a bit what CareWindow is first, just so that the rest of it always makes a lot of sense. CareWindow is a video phone I built originally for my dad. My dad went into Anglicare Trot Park, into a aged care facility at a fairly young age. Dad was 67 because he had a series of stroke-like attacks. And that essentially left Dad, unfortunately, unable to walk and having a great difficulty talking as well. There was no huge surprise because Dad's health had been on decline over a period of about 15 years. So us as a family were kind of ready for this. But what we weren't ready for was that Dad would suddenly be unable to use his mobile phone and that we would be unable to easily contact him. I was quite fortunate. I lived around the corner from his aged care facility. I was 10 minutes down the road, so I could go in every night. But my sister, Fiona, who has 6 kids at home, even though she's brave, even though she lived around the corner as well, she couldn't get in there every night because, some nights the kids are ratty or they've got sport and they need to be taken somewhere and so on and so forth. And then COVID happened and I got to learn what it had been like for her, where I couldn't get in there because they wouldn't let us anymore. And so I had to try calling Dad, whose dementia that came on as a result of acquired brain injury made that very difficult. And what Dad had is not uncommon. He had sequencing difficulty, low impulse control, and lack of fine motor control. And these are, apart from memory loss, the most common symptoms of dementia, and dementia we know is the most prominent cause of death in Australia now. These things combined mean you just can't use your phone. Dad was an engineer like me, and then suddenly couldn't do any of that anymore. So we had to find a solution for him. CareWindow was that solution. It's a device that gets placed on the bedside of somebody who wants to keep in touch with their family but struggles with their phone. And the general principle is it lets them make phone calls, but lets the family control the calls on their behalf. So if you ever jump on a Teams call or a Zoom call and you sit there at the other end of trying to guide someone, take it off mute, you turn your camera on, I can't see you. Imagine if you could just press the button for them and make it all work. That's the guiding principle behind what we've designed. We've now got more than 5,000 units in the wild. We're adopted by many aged care facilities, especially those in regional areas where people find it hard to visit otherwise. And we're really quite proud of what we've got. So if you want to find out more about that, we've got a bit of a website. You can feel free to check it out, carewindow.com.au. But today I'd love to tell you about what went behind this, how we were able to create something like this and get it to market. And we only came up with the idea in sort of 2022. We only started building it properly in 2023. And we've got on market late 24, and we've already managed to make quite a bit of an impact. So Adelaide was probably I've been in Adelaide my entire 39 years. And what I've learned about this city in particular is it's small enough that you can meet investors and people that have faith in your ideas. And it's large enough that you can have access to all the resources you need to make them work. I think if I was in a Sydney or Melbourne, I went to try and fundraise in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane and didn't get much traction. But I fundraised here, and my strategic investors and all of the people that backed my business came from here as well. And my access to government resources and everything was largely supported here too. My earliest education in IT was because Adelaide high schools provided industry-leading IT certifications. Cisco, I learnt that when I was a kid because Dad encouraged me to. My gap year was spent idly cleaning a butcher shop down at Foodland Pasadena. I learned that it was nice to cook meat, but I didn't want to be involved in the other end of the process. But fortunately, over that time, I met a lot of people that needed stuff done for their computers. And so they would ask me for help. I'd charge them $50 for my time and build them computers. And my accountant said, well, you better set up as a business. My mum introduced me to the family accountant, and away I went. So I kind of learnt what I wanted to do. Then I went out and got training in that. So I enrolled in TAFE because uni was scary. 3 years of my life seemed like a lot then. And I enrolled at TAFE, and TAFE fortunately had this thing called the pilot program with UniSA, and I was able to parlay my TAFE work into a uni degree. And after 3 years, the 3 years I didn't think I wanted to spend, I came out with a degree and I was able to do really good work in my field. I worked for a company for somebody else for the first 5 years, a company called Yak IQ that was a subcontractor to Austraining International, later got known as Scope Global. So I got to build complex systems for international development. We would deploy 3,000 essentially diplomatic travellers every year on behalf of the government to capacity build overseas. And I got to build the complicated stuff that made all of that work from a tech perspective. So I got trusted very early with some fairly complex heavy lifting projects. And because of that, I got to be pretty good at what I did. And that's something I think is, again, unique to Adelaide. If I'd gone into state, I probably would have sat in a cadetship role for 5 years and gotten to write off and sign off someone else's documents instead. Then I wanted to go out into business for myself because I built everything I was going to build there. And my boss was kind enough, again, I think this is a pretty uniquely Adelaide thing, to take my non-compete agreement that says I won't start a software business, and he tore it up and he handed me my first client. And I was very happy with that, and I've heard the similar stories. I think there's a lot of emphasis on relationships here. And that's where our size really plays in our favour. Dad got sick. That was most pronounced in sort of 2019 and 2020, which led to the inspiration behind creating the product that I created. And fortunately, because I'd established that firm by then, I had a lot of technology capacity and capability to do it. We went from 26 to 50 staff in the space of a year over COVID, and the wealth and associated capacity generated from that let me take a punt on myself, which I was quite happy with. So we went out and created CareWindow. It didn't exist. It should have. I went looking for something like it and couldn't find it, so I thought, well, I'd better go make it then. The first thing that I found in Adelaide as well was that I got feedback that was very blunt that I needed along the way. So I'm a tech head, not a nurse, not a carer. I don't know how that stuff works. And whereas my sister is a nurse and she was able to introduce me to a bunch of others that could tell me the crazy parts of what I was thinking and the more sensible parts. And I think that people were happy to be very honest with me rather than just give me the feel-good kind of answers to my questions. I also got a chance to start a co-working space business with some of my colleagues, and I had no idea how to run that when I started. It was just a happenstance thing during COVID. We got the opportunity to run a property management firm essentially, and basically because I was having a few beers with someone one night and I said, I could do that, no problem. And they said 2 months later, okay, you're doing it now. So boldness gets you somewhere sometimes, but also that was definitely a case of biting off more than I could chew and then chewing like mad. But it taught me that I could be bold. I could try things I hadn't tried before, and it could make them succeed as long as there was a market and a demand for what I was doing. The university was extremely helpful, so I spent time teaching at Flinders Uni, mostly mentoring student teams for industry projects, so helping them make real-world impact. And through doing that, as well as teaching at the TAFE, which I do now as well, I was able to really gain confidence in leading teams to be able to achieve things, and also see how a startup and a new business would operate. Because I used to run a service firm, that's fine, I can sell my time for a certain amount of money, but building a product's a whole different world, especially building a product to scale. So Adelaide let me peek over the fence at other people's products, see how they were thinking about it until I felt confident enough to do my own. And dozens of people sat through my pitch when I was raising money for the idea and told me exactly what was wrong with it. But they'd sit down with me and give their time for free and help me improve it. And I think I wouldn't have got anywhere without that. And then everything I needed to make the idea actually happen was provided to me as well through the connections I made in that process. I received money from the Aged Care Research and Industry Innovation Australia, or ARIA organisation. So I think it's federal government money provided to make aged care work better. And they, like Adelaide-based, I got to be introduced to them. I got to meet the people that ran them. I got to learn about what I would need to do to qualify for one of their grants. And they were very good. They actually helped build that happen. And then Dad's own aged care facility, also in Adelaide, let me trial the technology we were developing, and they sat down and they gave me feedback, even when Dad wasn't there anymore. They were able to take me through things and help guide our process, and they were our first pilot site with 10 users when we were starting out. And our early investors who backed us at first are all family and friends. And then we were backed by an investor that's got a significant stake in a number of retirement villages and other technology and service businesses around Adelaide. And they put enough gas in our tank that we're able to really scale. We went from having 300 or 400 units on the market to more than 5,000 in the space of 2 years because an Adelaide strategic investor could see the value in what we were doing, which we were really quite pleased by. And the connections were made again through, rubbing shoulders with the right people at the right time on the right day. I think it was a Melbourne Cup lunch and a boastful claim about the potential of our business that led to receiving that investment. So the state government put funding behind us, also helped us learn how to sell offshore, so they'd give us their time for free on export advisory, and then also eventually provided us a seed start grant, which was extremely powerful. Being a manufacturing business, we built a hardware product. It's very capital intensive, so we needed quite a bit of help, and they were able to make that happen through some fairly friendly terms. And now, because people have chosen to buy local, both in the real estate stuff that I've been involved with, in the engineering work that I've done, and now in the product development work around CareWindow, there's 50 South Australians that have a job. I used to be scared of that much payroll to handle, but then when I realised as long as you put yourself out there and showed that you were meeting a real need, there would be enough consumption behind that. So it went from being something really scary to something really exciting, especially now that technology in my industry is tipping into that world of being hugely productive through advances like AI and other tooling and other education that's coming out. So, I now see myself as, with this many staff, having a magic wand where I can really create whatever I imagine I want to create, which is a pretty cool place to be, considering I've never done my time in London, never gone to Sydney, never sat in a Big Four or learned that stuff, and just been a bit gritty and got it done on my own through the support of my neighbours. So I teach as well because I love it, and I kind of think that you've got to give back when you get. And TAFE actually was really quite good to me. They not only let me teach once I'd worked something out and made my business work, they let me teach well before that. They let me teach when I could just prove I had the technical knowledge, and when I said to them, hey, there's these other things I wish you guys would teach. I wish that I'd come out as a graduate knowing these things. And the TAFE educational manager said, well, come in and teach it then. And then they let me. It was in 2011. They just invited me into the classroom, and I've been teaching pretty consistently since then. And again, that's something I don't think you get anywhere else. I think you've got to really struggle to get into these positions where you can sit on both sides of the table. But through things like that, I was actually able to gain the confidence that I could lead teams and that people would get things done. So now what we're building is telehealth, so that CareWindow is designed so that someone doesn't need to leave their living room anymore to get medical help, even if they're struggling with technology. And I found that every time that I've trusted someone or someone in Adelaide, they've given me back more than I've asked for. And that's pretty different as well. Like, I think that organisations like Rotary are very much about giving and giving back, and I found that every time that I've given my trust to somebody, even a little bit vulnerable, they've given it back to me in a really positive way, where they've been quite happy. So, I feel like that's something very unique. So what I'm looking for and how I'd love if you could help me would be, we're trying to get our product out to more aged care facilities, because it's something like 2 in 3 people in aged care can't operate a phone, can't operate a smartphone or their in-room phone. And out of those 2 in 3 people, there's just no solution right now apart from what we provide for them to keep in touch with their family regularly, apart from hopefully the family comes in pretty often. We cost the same amount as an in-room phone, so the facility doesn't lose money on us. In fact, they make money and they make capacity, because we designed our product with the aged care facility staff in mind. So instead of them having to spend longer helping people find the buttons on their own phones, they can spend the time administering care instead, and the person can operate their own phone with the assistance of their family through the device. So we'd love to show it off to more people. That's one of the hardest things, is getting the name out there to us and getting the idea out there to as many people as possible, because we do find that once they see it and understand it, they really go for it quite quickly. And we're also, if you know anyone personally that could need our technology as well, friends or family or anything like that, please come and find us. Our technology is fully funded by the government, so if you've got someone that you know that's on an aged care package, for example, an older sibling or a mate or anything like that, if they're on a package, they can get our stuff for free. So we'd really love to be able to make that a bit easier for them. And the government doesn't do enough to tell you that you've got access to that stuff, right? So, so I'm here to tell you that. But yeah, come and find me afterwards, or find me online, and I'm more than happy to tell people how that works. We also get a lot of the benefit out of meeting with occupational therapists. So if you've got any of those in your lives, send them our way. They are rare as hen's teeth, but that particular profession has become in huge demand over the last few years. And when they see our device, they just get it straight away. They become our best advocates. So we'd love to meet one of those if you know them. So whoops, I've clicked that the wrong way. There we go. So thank you, Rotary Adelaide. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to what I've had to say today. Hopefully I went okay for time. I've been quite quick, actually, quicker than I expected to be. So, yeah. Yeah, and I am happy to take questions as well. So I see Simon with his hand up. Do you want to go first, Simon?
Oh. Yep, I don't think I need to wait for the microphone. So, thank you. We've known each other for about 7 years. Serial entrepreneur, probably never sleep with all your work in the community as well. My question, the first time I saw you do a launch in Alfredo was speaking in his native tongue. This is not on. One of the points of difference at launch was Alfredo, and you were explaining with the migrant community, as they're aging out and getting dementia, they often they've learned English as a second or third language, and they often revert back to their native tongue. And there was some live AI-driven translation. Can you talk to that a little bit more? Because I thought that was wonderful. And yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So the AI translation feature that we've got helps make it easier for people who are struggling with English as they get older to speak comfortably in their own language, and then have it be translated for their grandkids or their carers. We support 99 languages with that. The translation time is less than 2 seconds. So you say something, you pause for just a moment, and then it speaks in the other language straight away. I'd love to say we invented that. We're not that clever. We're just good at building screens. We actually bought that from a company that spun out from the University of New South Wales. We got sent on a research activity. We could go around and see what all the other technology companies like us were doing around the country. And we met this company called Everyoung AI over in a Sydney event, and they'd spent 8 years perfecting a translation AI that would take English to 99 other languages, and they trained it on clinical conversations, so it's very accurate. We were very pleased with that. We didn't want to use Google Translate because the accuracy was about 80%, but this product that we found had about 99% accuracy. So we felt comfortable that it was good enough for vulnerable individuals to use, and that's why that's live now as well. And we provide that for free with every device that we sell. So,
Zac, thank you for a great presentation. You'd actually make a very good Rotarian.
They warned me this would happen.
But my question is, can you just explain a little bit more of the technology? Is this a Wi-Fi thing? Is it actually connected to a phone system, or is it actually through that? Do they have a phone number? Do they have a SIM card? And what's the average cost of one of the units?
Yeah, very happy to tell you more about it. So a CareWindow is about yay big. It's about the size of an iPad, but it's a freestanding unit. So you place it on the desktop or a bench top and it sits on its own. It doesn't need an extra stand. It's designed so that it's
Oh, it's probably battery.
There we go. Are we back? We back? Ah, there we go. That's better. That's all right. It'll probably die again soon, but we'll see how we go. So it's designed to be splash-proof and drop-resistant as well. So typically, if someone's got low dexterity, they might knock. Well, that's all right. Check, check, check. Got me now? Very good. So it's a little desktop device, about 10 inches, looks like an iPad. You can't really knock it over. It's got two strong rubber feet on the base. If you do knock it off a table, it doesn't break. If you spill water or coffee on it, it keeps on working. The camera on top of the unit that gets used for video calls, because that's what it's very good for, is you can see them and they can see you. You can rotate the camera down with a whole hand, so it doesn't need fine motor control to change the camera around. It'll work on Wi-Fi, it'll work on 4G, it'll work on wired Ethernet, so any way that you could ever connect a laptop or an iPad to the internet, it will also support. We actually sell it with a built-in SIM card, so when you buy it, it's plug and play, ready to go. They don't need to have any technical knowledge to get it set up, and it takes the family less than 5 minutes to set up. The family switches it on, scans a QR code on the screen, gives it a name, and it's ready to go, and then they can start calling it. All of the family members install an app, the CareWindow app, and the app is free, and that lets them do video calls securely to the device, and it means that only people with the app who you know can call that device. So you don't get any telemarketers, you don't get any scam callers, so it protects people that are vulnerable. You can also get it with a phone number, so we do provide a phone number if someone chooses, and that phone number will also block all unknown numbers. So you put the family's numbers into it that you're comfortable calling them, and it will block the others. At certain times of the day, you can have it so that it can't make calls or so that you can't call it. So in an aged care facility, you usually don't want to call someone before midday because that's when everyone's getting transferred out of bed or getting assist lift or getting bathed or getting changed. And also, you probably don't want the unit to be able to make phone calls at 2:15 a.m. Because that's often, there's a thing, sundowners, or when someone's having a lot of anxiety, it's quite common. I remember getting the calls from family 2:15, 2:16, 2:17 because they're a bit anxious, and so at those times the device behaving a bit differently is often quite desirable. We do sell it for $4.99 for the device and then $49 a month, so it's kind of like buying a phone. And that $49 a month includes a SIM card, includes a phone number, includes video calling, and it's all inclusive price. And an aged care package or NDIS will fund the entire thing. So that subscription cost, you don't have to co-contribute to it. It counts as a clinical cost, and so the aged care package will fund the whole lot. So, yeah.
Thank you, Zac. I have a question. It's quite clear to me how people can communicate with the person in the aged care home. It's not clear to me how the communication works if a person in the aged care home is disabled, both verbally and physically. Can you give some idea of what happens then?
Absolutely. So we designed it to be 0 or 1 touch operation. So 1 touch meaning if they can still reach over with their hand to press the button, they just tap one photo of their family members on the screen and it calls them. If they're struggling verbally, then it kind of provides the visual. So it's a large 11-inch screen. The family can see them. They can see each other. We actually pick up all of the audio signal as well. So most telephones actually cut out a huge amount of audio signal, which means if someone is grunting or making non-verbal sounds that are still part of what we call non-standard speech is the technical term, then a normal phone system will cut that out entirely. But we actually don't compress our audio, so you can hear everything that you're hearing from the other end. So Dad would often struggle to get the right words out. He had fairly significant verbal aphasia, but we knew what he meant, and we could still have those interactions as long as we could see each other and as long as we could hear everything. So it's designed for that. And also, if they can't lift a finger to actually be able to press the button on the screen to place a call, which many people are in that situation as well. We have an automatic answering capability as well. So when the family calls them, the device rings for 30 seconds, puts on the screen a photo of who's calling. So, oh, that's my daughter. She's appeared on the screen. If nobody presses the red button in that time, the daughter pops up on the screen. And that took a lot of work to get aged care facilities comfortable with, because as you can imagine, there's a privacy side to that equation, right? So the way that we did it is we benchmark with our rotating camera on top of the unit, which you can turn away or turn towards the person in the room. That's the same as how a room door works in an aged care facility. So you rock up to go and see mum, the door is closed, it means don't come in. That's the same as if our camera is facing away. But you rock up and the door is open, you can pop your head around the corner and say, hey mum, is now a good time? And she might say go away, but that's okay. And our camera auto answer is the same equivalent. So you can poke your head up and say, hey mum, are you in your room? Is now a good time to chat? And she can say not right now, or she can say go ahead. She says not right now, you just hang up, and she says go ahead, away you go. And explaining it in those terms got the aged care facilities very comfortable. So that's kind of how we designed to solve that problem. Yep.
Okay, right.
Please.
Most of my question has been sort of answered, Jeff and Rod. But so how many actual pictures can you fit on the screen? Like, what's the total directory of the device?
We do. We have an upper limit of 32 contacts,
32, right.
but we make it so that there's 8 on the screen at once, so that the pictures are quite large. And you can actually dial up the size of the pictures. So for some people, they need them really very large. So you can have up to just 2 on the screen at once. We find that most of our users will tend to have 4 or 5 on there as about average, and 10 is kind of towards the upper end of what we see people actually use it for. We haven't had someone ask us for more than 32 yet, but we could very easily add that as well. It's kind of just an artificial limit at the moment. So. Absolutely, yeah. If you go to carewindow.com.au, all those inquiry forms, I see them all, and we've got an Adelaide-based team. There's 13 in the team of CareWindow, and there's another 40-odd in the team for my primary consulting firm that supports it. And so you get a response back within an hour or 2 of a contact. We're pretty fast. Yeah. Cheers. Thank you.
Last question. So you've talked about this being used in aged care. Any thought to putting this in disability?
Absolutely, actually. We've got a number of SIL accommodations at the moment that are making heavy use of it. In disability, there's quite an interesting use case as well, where you can mount it on like an arm and have it swing over a bed, but also you can use it as an intra-facility intercom. So you might have, in a disability housing environment, 3 people that have their own private rooms and 1 live-in carer. We can have it so that those in the private rooms have 1 button to call the live-in carer as well. So we're seeing quite a bit of applicability in that environment as well. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I really appreciate your time, and thank you for all your questions this afternoon.